What is going on, everyone? Hope you guys are having a great day so far. It's been a great day, a great couple of weeks. A lot of clients that we signed on from our big giveaway that we did a few weeks ago are like really getting started now, really getting their first set of goals, and some of them are really crushing it already. Obviously, they're not going to achieve a ton of fat loss in just a week or two, but really getting these habits down, really hitting their goals, and already seeing their energy levels improve. Already seeing their body tone up and tighten up in certain areas, and just building some really good momentum to move forward. So really excited about all of them. Also, sent out a bunch of team t-shirts to everyone who signed up to, and for current clients as well, some new t-shirts with our kind of new logo that I made a couple of months ago as well. So this is really exciting stuff. But really excited to talk about today's topic. So the 5 building blocks that you need to be focusing on to lose body fat. And I'm going to go over what these 5 are and briefly just explain all 5, and also talk about the order of each of these 5 that we should be focusing on too. Because we want to establish an order. Because if I just like threw all these 5 variables at you at once and be like, okay, these are the 5 things, it's going to be a lot for a lot of you guys to maybe take in. If you're not that experienced with tracking your food, not that experience in nutrition, not that experience in actually paying attention and making conscious decisions, if you focus on all these things at once, all at 100%, your mind is going to be racing from this to that over here. It's going to be very scattered because it's a lot to focus on. Like if you're someone who's never tracked your food and now you're trying to make this change because you want to lose weight and do it the right way without extreme dieting, a lot of this is new. Logging your food is maybe new. Eating, a certain amount of protein each day is maybe new. Thinking about balancing your meals or balancing your plate throughout the day is probably new. So if you focus on this and then these other variables I'm going to talk about all at once, all to 100%, and you like prioritize all of them evenly, your head's going to explode. So I don't want your head to explode. So I'm going to go over these 5 variables and talk about which ones are the most important. That way, if you're just getting started, you can maybe focus on the most important variable and still make really good progress. Or maybe if you have a little bit of experience, you can focus on the first 2 variables and make really good progress. Or maybe if you're, kind of in the intermediate side of things, you can focus on 3 of these variables and make really good progress. But you'll know which ones to focus on the least and which ones to focus on the most. And I maybe talk about a little bit of a tip at the end, actually, I will, on how you can prioritize these different variables based on your life circumstance, which is probably one of the biggest game changers as to what makes some of our clients like very successful versus some of our clients like extraordinarily successful. So let's go over what these 5 variables are first. These 5 variables are, number 1 is going to be, should I name all 5 off first? Let me just start at number 1. Number 1 is going to be energy balance. So energy balance refers to the amount of calories that we absorb and take in our body, how much our body extracts from the food that we eat, compared to the amount of energy our body utilizes each day. And this isn't just the amount of calories that we burn from exercise or from walking or being active or moving. That's included in this, but it also includes the amount of calories that we burn just from being at rest, just from surviving, just from breathing, just from our heart beating, just from our body filtering different things out of our body. All the metabolic processes that happen in our body take energy to actually follow through with. So all of that is included in the calories out or calories burned or energy expenditure side of the equation, whatever phrase you want to use. But number 1, whether you want to lose fat, gain fat, or maintain your body fat level, energy balance is king. Energy balance is the number 1 thing that you have to make sure you have down. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, so let me backtrack from that statement for a second. What this means is if you want to lose weight, you need to be eating less calories than what you burn. And what I mean by lose weight isn't necessarily just like seeing a difference on the scale. What I mean by lose weight is actually losing some kind of tissue mass from your body, whether that be fat tissue or muscle tissue. If we want to lose muscle or fat from our body, we have to be in a calorie deficit, eating less calories than what we burn to lose weight, lose tissue mass from our body. If we want to maintain the same level of tissue mass in our body, we need to be at calorie maintenance, meaning we are intaking and absorbing the same amount of calories than what our body expends each day. If we want to gain weight or gain some kind of tissue mass, right? Maybe you are at an extremely low body fat level and you actually need to or want to gain body fat to be healthy. Maybe you are lacking muscle mass and you want to actually build muscle and get more toned in that way, then you might actually want to be in a calorie surplus, eating a little bit more calories than what your body burns. And yes, we do sometimes have clients go through this if that's something that is their goal and that they need. Even women, because women need this too, if that's their goal and that's where they're at. But these are kind of the three states of energy balance, being in an energy deficit, eating less calories than what you burn, being in energy maintenance, eating the same amount of calories than what you burn, and then being in an energy surplus, eating more than the number of calories that you burn over an extended period of time. So whatever side of the equation you're on will dictate whether you, like I said, gain weight, lose weight, or maintain weight in tissue mass. Water weight fluctuations are going to happen. That's not relevant to how many calories you're eating. But when we're talking about actually losing fat loss or fat mass, or losing muscle mass, or opposite, gaining muscle mass or fat mass, energy balance is going to make the biggest difference in that equation. So that is number one. That is the first priority, that before you focus on any of these other four things that I'm going to mention, you need to have your energy balance down. And this does not necessarily mean that to be in a calorie deficit, so eating less calories than what you burn, it does not mean that in order to lose weight, the best thing for you necessarily is to eat less and move more. For some of you, possibly, but for others, maybe in the past you have tried to eat less, like eat way less than what you burn, maybe 1,000 calories a day, and that has negatively impacted your body, and that's what you try to do again, and that's not what I recommend doing. But in general, blanket statement, you have to be eating less calories than what you burn to lose weight, lose tissue over a period of time. But we just have to make sure that we have that right balance of eating less than what we burn, but not eating too little to where it negatively affects our hormones, our energy, our follow through with the plan. Like if you're eating 1,000 calories a day, you're probably going to end up binging at some point and falling off track because it's just too unsustainable. Going to deal with other negative health issues if you're consistently eating that low. So while we need a calorie deficit to lose fat, we have to make sure it's the right calorie deficit for you and your body to have high energy, thrive in your workouts, while still achieving, weight loss or fat loss, but not overdoing it. And also, we want to make sure we're not doing a ton of exercise too much to where you're overstressing your body in that way. So, number one is energy balance. We have to have that down, which is why when we work with clients, big priority goal, we have a few things that we start clients off with, but one of the biggest ones is our calorie range. They're given a specific calorie range for their body, and we adjust that calorie range week to week to make sure they keep making progress. So that is number one. Number two, variable number two is macronutrients. And I want to emphasize specifically protein with this. So macronutrients can refer to protein, carbohydrates, or fat. Alcohol can be viewed as a macronutrient as well, but macronutrients are basically the things that we get calories from. So we don't get calories from like potassium, sodium, calcium, those vitamins and minerals. We don't get calories from, we get calories from macronutrients, which are, like I said, protein, carbs, and fats, and then alcohol is kind of a fourth one in there. But when it comes to macronutrients, when we look at the research, the carb-and-fat ratio for general weight loss and fat loss doesn't matter really a ton. When we get to people who are already pretty lean and they just want to continue to take it to the next level, or maybe they have very specific performance goals they're aiming for, then the carb and fat ratio matters a little bit more. But for the general population, the general person, your carbon fat ratio, as long as you're getting enough body fat to maintain proper hormonal health, which I recommend being at like 45 grams of fat minimum for most people. As long as you're getting that amount of fat, your carbon fat ratio really doesn't matter a ton for direct fat loss, but your protein intake does. And I'm sure if you're in here in this group or listening to this, you've probably heard about protein a ton. So protein is so important because how I mentioned on the bottom, or the number one priority is energy balance. And that dictates whether we gain or lose weight or maintain our weight. Protein is going to pretty much dictate whether we gain or lose muscle mass as being that weight or fat mass. So probably if you've ever started a diet and you ever wanted to lose weight or ever wanted to lose body fat, well, I guess ever wanted to lose weight, the weight you wanted to lose was actually body fat, not muscle mass. So getting enough protein is so important because it ensures that we're getting enough resources for our muscles to recover. That way our muscles being broken down for energy doesn't happen as often, and the tissue that we're actually breaking down for energy is fat mass instead, because that's what we ultimately want to lose if we're trying to force a calorie deficit on our body. So protein is the second most important variable, or macronutrients, you can kind of put that label, but protein specifically is the second most important thing because that dictates whether the weight that we lose or gain is going to be mostly muscle mass or mostly fat mass. So now we have energy balance, number one priority. Protein intake or macronutrients is number two. Number three priority is micronutrients. So micronutrients refers to vitamins and minerals that we're getting. So like your sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, vitamins A, D, E, and K, also vitamin C, vitamin B. So those are lumped into micronutrients, and also what also can be kind of lumped into micronutrients is fiber as well. It's kind of a subcategory of carbs, but sometimes it's easier to think about it as a micronutrient as well. But all of these things help to make sure that we have enough energy throughout the day to do our daily tasks, to go to the grocery store, think at our job, maintain high energy levels at the gym, not feel fatigued and crashing at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. They can help to manage cravings as well. They make sure we maintain proper electrolyte balance. Fiber, if we're lumping that into here, they help us to feel full, help us to have good digestive health. So these micronutrients are very important for making sure that we are maintaining proper energy levels throughout the day, and also to maintain to make sure that we are staying full between meals too, so we're not snacking as much, so we're not overeating at meals. So these micronutrients, they don't directly impact fat loss a ton, but they do indirectly impact fat loss by, like I said, keeping our energy levels high through the day, also through our workouts, help us to maintain focus, helps to reduce cravings, helps to keep us full throughout the day in between meals. So micronutrients are really important there, but they are number three. So make sure that before you stress so much about like consuming a super high micronutrient diet, be mindful of your energy balance and protein intake as well. So this doesn't mean if you are hitting your calorie intake and hitting your protein, that fruits and vegetables, vitamins and minerals don't matter at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is make sure you are also focusing on your calorie intake and your protein intake, or else you could be eating a high micronutrient diet, but you could be eating too many calories and then still not losing weight and wondering like, oh, I'm eating healthy, but I'm not seeing fat loss. And that's one of the biggest things that I actually see people complain about, or maybe not complain about, but express, is that, hey, like I'm eating super healthy, eating, plenty of fruits and vegetables, eating really well, but I'm not losing weight or losing fat. And a lot of that comes down to not the fact that maybe you're not eating healthy, but maybe you're not getting enough calories, or maybe you're getting too little calories or too many calories. Maybe you're not getting enough protein, right? Because a lot of people, when they want to lose weight, they want to get toned, they want to feel strong in the gym. But if you're not getting enough protein, you're not going to recover as much. You're not going to be able to build or keep as much muscle. So you're not going to have that toned look when you actually do lose weight. So micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, extremely important. Consuming an overall healthy diet. but make sure if you have a very specific goal of fat loss or changing your body composition or getting toned, getting lean, shaping your body, that you have the calorie and protein portion down as well. So let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is your nutrient timing, or you can kind of replace this phrasing with meal timing maybe. So what this refers to is, and I kind of like saying this as meal distribution instead of meal timing or nutrient timing, because it also includes not only the time of day you eat, but also how often. So are you eating, 2 meals versus 4 or 5 meals per day? Are you eating, most of your meals before 5 p.m., or are you having most of your meals later on in the evening? Are you doing any kind of intermittent fasting, this and that? And also too, it also refers to how your meals are broken down as far as like, are they balanced? Are you eating like one meal that's just carbs in the morning and one meal that's just protein in the evening? Or are you eating a few meals per day that have a good balance of carbs, protein, and vegetable, right? Or how balanced are they? So meal distribution is a little bit better of a term I like to use for this 4th factor. But this kind of similarly to micronutrients, doesn't impact fat loss a ton directly, but it can indirectly really impact fat loss by making sure that you stay full throughout the day. So if you're eating just 1 or 2 meals a day, by the time you get to that 1 meal or that second meal, you're probably going to feel maybe like ravenously hungry. And because you're feeling like that, you're going to be more likely to choose foods that are maybe your quote unquote junk foods, right? Your super high calorie density foods. You're gonna come home from work, you're gonna grab the bag of chips, start eating just directly out of the bag, maybe grab some cookies as you're cooking dinner, and then maybe after dinner you're gonna want some kind of high calorie dessert with it. And because you're eating just 2 meals a day, or maybe even 1, some people do that, you're overcompensating for that time that you're not eating and not having balanced meals to really overconsume calories at the tail end of the day. And that's a struggle that a lot of people have, I think. So that's a scenario where meal distribution or meal timing can negatively impact fat loss, not because there's something special about like, oh, if I eat a lot of calories past 6 p.m., it's just gonna all be stored as fat because my metabolism shuts off at night or something like that. That's not true. But it can negatively impact fat loss because you're going so long periods of time without eating that you're getting that hungry to the point where you just completely binge afterwards. Another way nutrient timing or meal distribution can negatively impact fat loss is if you're not distributing like your protein, carbs, and fats pretty evenly throughout the day, and you're just having, like I said, in that weird scenario, maybe your breakfast is like just straight carbs and that's it. And while it might satisfy you for a little bit, it's probably not going to be satisfying for maybe 4 or 5 hours until your next meal. So you're going to end up feeling that like super hungry feeling again before you have the time to eat. And then you're more likely to kind of binge on that next meal that you're having, versus if you distribute, your protein, carbs, fiber a little bit more evenly throughout the day. That breakfast is going to be, high in protein, it's going to be high in good carbs, it's going to be high in fiber, and it's going to keep you fuller longer and eliminate a lot of those cravings. And that is going to make it easier then to stick to that side of the energy balance equation that we want to stick to. So nutrient timing, meal timing, like the time of day you eat, the number of specific meals that you have per day doesn't matter a ton, but what matters is whatever you choose, that impact it has on these other variables below that are a little bit more important when it comes to energy balance, protein intake, etc. So general rules of thumb for meal timing is I recommend, having roughly 3 to 5 meals per day, evenly spaced out for the most part, and having protein at pretty much each of those meals too. Just because there is some research of if you have protein around 3 to 4 times a day, 3 to 5 times a day, it will stimulate muscle recovery more often. Like each of those times you have a protein feeding, if they're spread out between like 3 to 4 hours each, will like maximize muscle recovery at that moment. So having that like protein feeding at least every 3 to 4 hours, around 3 to 5 times a day, is a little bit more beneficial for muscle recovery versus if you just have like one meal a day and you get all your protein in. Like if you have a protein goal of 120 grams, let's say, per day, try to get maybe 4 meals with 30 grams each versus just having like one meal with 120 grams. The 4 meals with 30 grams each is probably going to help you recover more. Most of that protein is going to be used for actual muscle growth and muscle retention, versus just being broken down as like energy, if you're just having it all in one lump sum, if that makes sense. So fourth variable that's most important, or that is fourth most important, is nutrient timing, meal distribution. But like I said, make sure that you're prioritizing energy balance first, protein intake second, getting a whole food diet, most of your foods coming from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean meats, to check off the micronutrients and fiber portion for number 3. And then, maybe start dialing in your meal distribution or nutrient timing a little bit more. And then point number 5, the least most important out of all 5 of these variables, is maybe the thing that I get the most questions on, which is supplements. Supplements are going to make the least difference out of all these other variables. So whether you take like a multivitamin, or you take creatine monohydrate, or you take a pre-workout, or you take like a fish oil supplement or vitamin D, when it comes to fat loss, all those things matter far less than everything else I mentioned. And another kind of supplement that a lot of people might have thought of when I brought up supplements is a protein supplement. That's a little bit different. That gets lumped into the protein / macronutrient category down at the bottom, or point number 2 that I made, because that is, even though it is like a supplement, it is a powder, it still has all the benefits of like actually consuming whole food protein in it. So it gets lumped into the like food category versus the supplement category. But when it comes to supplements, like I said, creatine monohydrate, fish oil, multivitamin, and a vitamin D supplement, if you don't get a lot of sunlight throughout the day and your multivitamin doesn't include vitamin D, those are like the big, 4? I mentioned 4 supplements, I think, there, that like I generally recommend to most people if they are otherwise healthy, want to lose weight, and they are lifting weights. If you have any special conditions and things, like always talk to your doctor before taking any special supplement there. But if you're otherwise healthy and you're lifting weights regularly, creatine monohydrate, multivitamin, fish oil, and vitamin D, if you're, like I said, if your multivitamin doesn't have it, and if you don't get a lot of sunlight per day, are kind of the 4 I recommend. And even those 4, I could take 1 or 2 of those out, and it's not going to make any difference really in my weight loss or fat loss. Supplements are like little sprinkles that you put on the top of your ice cream, where sure, they could make it a little bit better, make you feel a little bit better eating it, maybe you think it tastes a little bit better, but if the ice cream sucks underneath, like if you have some weird flavor of ice cream that you hate, doesn't matter how many sprinkles you put on it, it's still going to be terrible ice cream. So we have to remember that when we're thinking about our diet as well, and the food we eat for fat loss, is it doesn't matter how many supplements you take. It doesn't matter if you take all those ones I listed and you're perfect with those. If your energy balance is not on the side of the equation it's supposed to be, if you're not getting enough protein throughout the day, if you're not hitting your micronutrient requirements, getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, getting your vitamins and minerals in, and if you're not distributing your meals well throughout the day, then fat loss is going to be really hard for you. And this is where this kind of order of importance can be, like, if you ingrain this in your head and think about these, it can make managing your nutrition around your life so much easier. Because in a perfect world, on a perfect week where your life is completely routine and there's no curveballs, like there's not, I don't know, random kids getting sick in your household, or not random kids, your kids, but your kids getting sick, in your house, you getting sick, you don't have any big events coming up, you don't have any social events that are popping up, you aren't on vacation, you're just on a regular week, routine week, you go to work, same time, eat your meals at your normal time and everything. You can focus on a lot of these variables, if not all these. Like you can dial in your calorie intake, dial in your protein intake, get plenty of fruits and vegetables, evenly distribute your meals, then hit all your supplements and do great. You can do that on a very routine week. And now let's say you have a week where, work is throwing you a lot more projects. So you're working an hour or two later than usual. You have kids that are sick. So they're home from school or home from daycare, and they are getting in the way maybe of your meal prep a little bit, or this or that. Or maybe you're just overly stressed because of all those things, because of work, because your kids are sick. You can then scale back the amount of variables that you focus on and still make really good progress that week. So instead of focusing on, like I said, on a perfect week, you're focusing on calories, protein, micronutrients, meal timing, and supplements. Maybe on a hectic week where you feel like you're going to pull your hair out because you're so stressed, maybe you only focus on calories and protein, and you try to get as many vitamins and minerals, fruits and vegetables as you can. But maybe you only have, instead of your normal 2 to 3 servings of each, maybe you only have a serving of each because you just didn't have time to prep, or you had to work on this versus prepping your vegetables. And if you do that, that's a lot better than focusing on none of these variables. Like if, let's say, you can get 70% of your results that are possible just from focusing on calories, then if you add protein intake on top of that, maybe you're able to get 80% of your total results. And then you add in the micronutrient portion, like getting plenty of fruits and vegetables and whole foods. And then maybe the percentage of the results that you're able to capitalize on that day, maybe you're up to 90%. And then you dial in your meal timing, and maybe you're at 95%. And then you hit your supplements and you're at 100%. You're maximizing all the physical progress you can actually make on that day. But when life gets hectic, you can dial that back to maybe 80% and maybe just focus on calories and protein, and maybe just kind of cancel out. You know what? It's okay if I don't get my normal 4 or 5 meals a day and I just get all my calories and protein in between 2 or 3 meals. That's just what today looks like, and that's okay. I'm still, maximizing maybe 80% of my total results by doing that. And then maybe, the next day, it's a little bit less stressful. So you really make sure you get those fruits and vegetables in for micronutrients, but maybe your meal timing or meal distribution is still a little bit off. Maybe you only had protein in 2 meals versus your normal 4, but you still hit your total protein goal. Now you're maximizing maybe 90% of your total results you could get. And then maybe you have another really, really shitty day where things are crazy and maybe you don't even hit your protein target, but you at least hit your calorie target. And then by that, you're still getting 70% of those total results you could get on that day if you were perfect. And that's a lot better than just because you aren't able to nail all 5 of these. That's a lot better than just throwing the towel in completely and not doing any of them. So use this kind of ladder almost of energy balance, protein, micronutrients, meal distribution or meal timing, and then supplements, and then raise your kind of standard of the variables you're focusing on based on how crazy your life is. And maybe for a couple week period, maybe you're only nailing calories and protein because life is just that hectic. And then a couple weeks after, the tide settles and things calm down a little bit, you're able to start prioritizing your micronutrients and meal timing a little bit more. So you raise that bar a couple points. And then maybe you're going on vacation. So you bring that down and you're like, okay, protein intake is going to be difficult to hit, and maybe I want to just at least bare minimum hit my calorie intake. And then you bring it down to that, first rung on that ladder. But you can always kind of bring your focus up and down depending on how hectic or crazy your life is. And I mentioned this in the beginning of this, that this is one of the biggest determinants of the clients that end up getting really great results versus the ones that get extraordinary results. And the ones that get extraordinary results are the ones who are able to really ingrain this in their head and bring their focus up and down and not stress about it, not feel guilty for not necessarily hitting every single variable every single day, but at least focusing at bare minimum of hitting their calories and protein most of the time, and then hitting those other variables when they can, as consistent as they can. And they can make really good progress that way for life, and it becomes sustainable because it teaches you how to then scale back your focus a little bit when life feels like it's gonna just blow up in your face almost sometimes, because I know that feeling. So hopefully this was helpful as far as giving you all these 5 variables that make the biggest impact, and then also giving you like the level of importance and which ones you should focus on more versus a little bit less. And kind of showing you how you can scale that focus back up and down depending on how hectic or routine life is at the moment. So hopefully this was helpful. Definitely let me know below if there's any one of these factors that you would love to hear more information on and hear me to like really dive deep, because I can definitely go really deep on a lot of these topics for sure and go into more detail. So just let me know below. Let me know if this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one.